Hello, guys. I am Priyanka Mehan, and today we have an analyst, an investor, and a philanthropist with us, Mr. Deep Chitalia. Thank you so much for joining with us, sir. As you know, India is going through a tough phase itself, and so it is the best time to speak to an analyst himself about the current situation of the Indian economy. So let's start up with the interview, sir. Yeah. Firstly, I would like to ask you about your opinion on the current situation of the Indian economy. And where do you position India in comparison to the other economies?
Priyanka, it is very difficult as of now to predict the short-term future. So if we talk about maybe next couple of quarters, I think it is difficult to predict India's economy, but I can give you a long-term view that India has a great future. I am very much optimistic towards Indian economy, and definitely in the next 10 to 15 years, India will be the third largest economy in the world after US and China. Why I am very much bullish is definitely if you see the recent news that government has a disinvestment plan of 1.75 lakh crores, which they have committed to complete it in the financial year 2022. So I think that will give a room to the privatization and help the companies to work with the greater efficiency. So I think it will also help to increase the productivity. Now, let me tell you why I am very much optimistic, why India has a bright future in the next couple of decades. We have ample of opportunities. Let me highlight few points. So let's talk about the demographics. So I think India has a favorable demographics. We still have a positive birth rate. So the size of the workforce will continue to grow in the upcoming future. So as a result, we can have a skillful labor, and we will have a good human resource. The second thing is we are still need to improve in our infrastructure. Now that is an opportunity. So if the government gives a slight boost to the infrastructure, if they invest a good amount of capital in terms of infrastructure sector, I think there is a huge scope of increasing the productivity as far as the other companies and other sectors are concerned. So if the government will push infrastructure sector, definitely automatically the productivity of other companies and other sectors will also increase, and it will also boost employment as well. The third thing which I am very much bullish is about the startups. Now, India is known as a tech startup across the world, and India is the hub for IT startups. And India is bringing major reforms to motivate the startups and helping the businessmen to grow the business. So I think India is becoming the largest hub for IT startups, which will eventually help India to grow all over the globe. The another factor which I am thinking is about the inflow of FDI. So now India is becoming an attractive magnet for FDI. If we see recently last year, we have seen the data that India has crossed $500 billion mark in terms of FDI inflows. That will eventually have liquidity in the market, and eventually our working cycle will improve, and companies will be able to operate with a larger efficiency. So I think the globally investors have eyes on India in terms of investments, in terms of growth, and they are very much optimistic towards the upcoming decades in India. So these are the major reasons which I see, and I'm very much optimistic towards Indian economy. And as I have again said that I am not sure about the next 1 or 2 years or maybe couple of quarters, but within the next 10 to 15 years, as I have mentioned the strengths, this will definitely help India to grow to become the third largest economy in the world.
As you were just speaking about the FDI investments, I have one another question relating to the same. On May 12, 2020, Prime Minister Narendra Modi said, and I quote, Atmanirbhar Bharat will be built on 5 pillars, out of which the first and the foremost one was economy. An economy which brings quantum jump and not an incremental change. Now that 1 year has passed to this statement of his, I want to ask you about your opinion. That how much Atmanirbhar do you think Modi government has been able to make Bharat keeping in view the entire economy of India and all of the past events that have taken place in the past year, like FDI investments, budget 2020-21, then farm laws, etc., everything included.
Yeah, definitely, Priyanka. I think government are bringing major reforms whose results will be seen in the upcoming years, and it will bring the drastic results in the form of economy, in terms of productivity, etc. Now, let me, since your question have all the different subtopics, now let me cut it down and take each topic at a time. So, as we talk about the farm laws, so let me give you one statistic that the overall exports, so agriculture sector contributes 10% of the overall exports. Okay, and if we see the last year data in FY 2021, India has exported the agriculture goods of around 2.74 lakh crores, which is a very big amount. That is 10% of the total exports. Now, what impact this farm law will bring is, first of all, this law is giving the rights to the farmers to sell their cultivation, to sell their crops wherever they want, at wherever they will get a reasonable price. Now, what impact it will create? Let me give you an example. So, let's say if Punjab is the only state who is growing paddy crops, okay, and Punjab is known to grow their paddy crops and etc. Now, let's say if few farmers are growing paddy crops and they are just getting the MSPs, they won't get motivated to grow paddy crops further. Rather, they will choose to grow cereals. But once if this MSP gets implemented or this farm laws gets implemented, then automatically the farmer has the right to sell their productivity where the demand is. So farmer can sell their products in the market wherever they want at whatever price they want. So as a result, they will be able to meet the global demand. So let's say if there is a global demand of paddy crops in the market, not only in India, but maybe in other countries, then farmer will feel motivated that since I am getting a good revenue from the cultivation, then I should grow paddy crops. So this law will allow farmers to grow their cultivation wherever they want in their farm, whatever they want, and sell it wherever they want at whatever price they are feeling comfortable to. So these are the major factors which will bring farm laws to increase the productivity. Especially the special programs are also invented to educate the farmers in terms of different techniques and different technology which has come in the agriculture market, in the agriculture sector, which will help the farmers to grow their productivity. So these are the major impact which a farm laws can bring. Now talking about the Atmanirbhar Bharat. Now NHAI is the great example because we have built the largest highway network around the cities, connecting the cities, which will eventually boost the infrastructure and logistics. Now, government has also allowed infrastructure sector to have 100% FDI, which will also boost the infrastructure sector. Okay, so this is how we are becoming Atmanirbhar on a very gradual basis. Let me give you one another example of a very small industry, which is a very small industry. Someone might have not noticed as well. Let me give you an example of agarbatti sticks. Now it's a very small industry, and what we used to do is, while for making agarbattis, we used to import the raw materials from China. Now what government did is we have imposed 30% of excise duty on agarbattis raw material. And parallelly, the Khadi Gram Udyog is designing the special scheme for the rural area people, the villagers, to give them the machineries who can able to produce that agarbattis raw material or manufacture that agarbattis raw material. Now, what impact it will create? This industry has a potential to give employment to around 20 to 40 lakh people in the rural area. Okay. So now how India will grow? India will produce the same quality of agarbatti sticks at a very low cost. It will also create an employment in the rural areas without compromising the quality of agarbatti sticks. So now we are slowly upgrading the technologies. We are slowly making people aware about the technologies. We are helping the rural areas that to become an entrepreneur from a smaller villages. We are introducing different schemes. So these are the major factors which I think that it will create a big impact in terms of the mantra given by Shri Narendra Modi ji of Atmanirbhar Bharat, and it will create a drastic change in the upcoming next decade, and definitely it will give good results.
So here I have a report by the Ministry of Statistics in front of me, which states that India's growth in the fourth quarter of the fiscal year 2020-20 went down to 3.1%.
Mhm.
Even the chief economic advisor of the government of India, Mr. Krishnamurthy Subramanian, said that this decline is mainly due to the COVID-19 impact on the Indian economy. I want to ask about your opinion of the impact of COVID-19 on the Indian economy, where the second wave has just set in, and which sector do you think has been the worst hit by this?
Definitely. I think COVID is the problem of very short term. Maybe this will eradicate once the whole countrymen will get vaccinated. So once our countrymen of 130 crore people, once they get vaccinated, we will come with the larger force to work towards our economy. As far as the sectors are concerned, I think all the sectors are mostly hit by this COVID-19 wave. But the two major sectors which I feel that has a major impact and it will take time to recover is first is tour and travelism industry. I think the online and offline services, the inbound and the outbound services of tour and travelism industry is highly impacted. I think it is estimated that they will face a loss of around $4.7 billion. Okay, which is a huge amount in terms of revenue, and the whole supply chain which is connected to tours and travelism will get impacted, and almost they will face a loss of around 5 lakh crore rupees. Okay, so it will take a year or two to get recover for this industry. So this is the first sector which I feel that needs to work upon. The second thing, the second sector which I feel is hospitality sector, because I think right now hotels and restaurants are operating and they have operating at a very low level. 80 to 85% of the hospitality industry is under the erosion, and most of the restaurants have shut down. And as a result, this restaurant industry is estimated to face a loss of around $19 billion. So this is the major blow for this industry. And these are the two major sectors which will take time to recover even after the COVID, because people are hesitant to travel, people are hesitant to eat food outside. So these two sectors will take time to recover. And as far as COVID is concerned, I think some or the other way, all the sectors are impacted. But I think we will recover. I have a very optimistic view towards economy, and we will grow at a very faster pace.
So how do you read India's economy report in comparison to the report of China?
Yes. So I think both the countries have done exceptionally well from in the last 2 decades. They have implemented the liberalization policies, which is one of the major factor for foreign trade and investments, which has also boosted the economy in indirect way. Also, both the countries are working hard towards research to educate their people to have a skillful worker, upgrading their skills. They are also working on science, technology, etc. So I think both the countries are doing exceptionally well. China is ahead in terms of manufacturing sector. That's why China has has a bigger economy than India. But I think the Atmanirbhar mantra, which is given by our Honorable Prime Minister Shri Narendra Modi, I think we will eventually cope up with them. And I think as far as the global business is concerned, now I don't think any of the countries want to deal with China after COVID. I am not saying that every country will completely stop to deal with China, but now they are searching for an alternative option. Okay, and they have eyes on India. They see a potential to of they see a potential in India to grow goods, to manufacture the goods, to grow services sector, and etc. So these are the major reforms which can bring in India, and Definitely, I think it's a zero-sum game. If the global projects are not given to China, it will ultimately come to India. So it's a zero-sum game, and I think that will eventually help this sector, manufacturing sector, to get boosted.
So if I've gone through the power rankings of the countries, India is currently ranked at number 13, whereas US and China are ranked at first and second positions respectively. If you're so optimistic about the growth of Indian economy, can we say that India will be a superpower by the year 2030?
So Priyanka, I think the word superpower comes with lots of factors in terms of global relation, in terms of military, in terms of economy, etc., etc. I can't commit about the other factors, but I think I can have a view on economy, how economy will grow in the next 10 to 15 years. I think India will become the third largest economy in the world after US and China. The major factors which I am optimistic with, and I would like to highlight few of the strengths. First, I will talk about the retail sector. So I think in India, 92% of the retail sector is unorganized, mostly run by an individual or a small businessman with a small capital, and they don't care to pay the taxes or they don't come under the tax regime. Okay. Only 8% of the retail sector covers under the organized retail sector. Now, in 2014, it has only 8% share of retail sector, which will eventually grow to 50% till 2034. So as this retail chain will get introduced, automatically it will create an ecosystem that will beneficial to government also, that will help to generate taxes, which will eventually help our country. Okay. So I think the retail sector will grow well. Talking about the manufacturing sector, so if we look at the data of 2014, only 12% of the contribution in the GDP was done by manufacturing sector, but eventually in till 2034, the contribution of manufacturing sector will be greater than 25%, which is a very remarkable mark. Okay. Talking about the digital connectivity, I think right now only 15% of our population have a digital access. We have an internet access. As a result, it is very difficult for people to have an access of information, to grow the online business, to have an education, etc. But I am very much sure that till 2034, I think 80% of the people will have a digital access, will have an internet at their home, so that they can successfully get an education, they can successfully run an online business, etc., etc. So these are the major things which I think I am very much optimistic with. Apart from that, we have a good workforce. So right now, only 400 million people are covered under urbanization, which will eventually grow to 650 million till 2034. So 650 million people will covered under urbanization till 2034. So as a result, the demand will increase. People will have a good capital income that will eventually boost the retail sector, FMCG sector, eventually help the other sectors to grow as well. So I think we have a good technology. Economists always say that we have a good healthy saving habits. We have a attractive workforce. We have a skillful labor, etc., etc. So these are the major factors which I think we are growing upon. Another thing which I would like to add is agriculture sector, which we are again coming to that point, that right now, if we see the data in 2014, the productivity of agriculture sector was only 4 tons per hectare. Okay. But that will eventually increase to 7.4 tons per hectare till 2034. So eventually we are trying to increase the agriculture productivity with the very much less resources in terms of fertilizers or maybe anything. So we are using the optimum use of technology. We are educating our farmers. We are trying to bring reforms in agriculture, which will eventually boost the exports and that will help the country to grow.
Now, how would you comment on the import-export situation of India? Which sector do you think will contribute the most to the exports till the next 5 years?
I think MSMEs has played a very important role in terms of exports. If you see the data, the 48% of exports are contributed by MSME, the small businessmen who have a market cap or who has a business of around 5 to 10 crore rupees. But I assure you that 60% of the exports will be contributed by MSMEs in the upcoming 2 years. So this is the power of MSME. So now what government did is they have implemented the scheme of giving a boost to MSME sectors to come forward to create an employment. They are working on easing the business laws. They have also introduced the scheme of 50,000 crores to lend up the loans for business loans or a working capital loans to MSMEs. Okay, so this will eventually help the businessmen to come forward to take the risk and to run the business very smoothly. Okay. Now talking about the sectors, I think there are two sectors. Before that, I would like to also add that the government has also organized a special committees uh, who rate the agencies. We have like a rating agency committee who rate the MSMEs, who check their transaction details, banking details, their past record, their business models, the CIBIL score of that businessman. So that will help to have a good qualities of loan, which will also help to reduce the NPAs, and the loan will go to the right hands. Okay, so I think that fair committee which is organized by government will also help the MSME sector. Talking about the sectors which will help to bring the exports, I think first is 48% of the exports are contributed by petro products. So there are new emerging companies of maybe 1,000 or 1,500 crore of market cap who are doing exceptionally well. I don't feel that I should take their names on this platform, but they are doing exceptionally well. There's a huge opportunity for investors as well. So I think India is the largest exporter of petro products all over the globe. So I think the petrochemical products will contribute well in the upcoming few years in terms of exports. So this is the first sector. And the second sector is again agriculture. I think we are working hard to increase our productivity, to revise our farm laws. So as a result, right now only 10% of the total exports are contributed by agriculture. But I think it will eventually rise up to 15 to 16% in the next 5 years.
You are an analyst and an investor yourself. I would like to ask you, which sector are you most optimistic about? Or rather, if you have any stock in mind which can beat the market according to you.
Yes, definitely. I have two sectors in my mind. First one is auto sector. The auto sector comprises of a business of around 4,50,000 crores, which is a huge business. And around they have an export of 1,50,000 crores every year. And mostly it is done by two major players, Bajaj and Tata. Okay. So now we are also joining hands with the people outside the country to bring electrical vehicles in the country. So I think we have a great future because electrical vehicles are coming to our country within maybe next 2 to 3 years. And definitely, I think the major tax which is collected also comes from an automobile sector. So I think automobile sector, if they introduce the electrical vehicles or they are working towards the technology, right now due to this COVID situation, most of the things are on hold. But once the COVID situation completes, it ends, automatically the auto sector will rise at a very faster rate. The second is the pharma sector. So as we have seen in the budget is that our honorable finance minister Nirmala Sitharaman ji has also given a boost to pharma infrastructure. So now we are spending a lot in infrastructure. We are spending a lot in research and development of new APIs, which will be found useful all over the globe. And so I think pharma will become a major exporter in the next 5 years, and it will also contribute much in the economy. So these are the two sectors which I am very much bullish in, is auto and pharma. I think they will do well in the next 5 years. I would
Okay,
not like to point a specific stocks at this platform because it will be against the ethics. So I would only talk about the sectors. I can't comment about any company's stock or performance on the whole.
Okay, I have to ask this. With the currently ongoing trend of the cryptocurrencies, like every day when I wake up, I hear a news regarding cryptocurrencies such as Bitcoin, Dogecoin. And Elon Musk has also recently, who is also known as the Doge father, has been commenting on Dogecoin as being a hustle. And the very next day, he's tweeting and asking his followers whether Tesla should be accepting Dogecoin as a method of payment. So I want to ask you about your opinion on cryptocurrencies and what do you think if they have a future, especially in India?
I think Priyanka, cryptocurrency is one of the biggest bubble which will eventually burst in maybe next 5 years, 10 years, or 15 years. How can you expect a currency to fluctuate by 15 to 20% on a daily basis? If there's a fluctuation in dollars by 1 or 2%, there's a news. There's a big news. The market shivers. Okay, this is the power of currency. So I think the power of issuing the currency should be only given to the government and not anyone and everyone. How can you expect anyone to issue a currency? Let's say from tomorrow, I will issue a cryptocurrency of 5 crores, 5 crore cryptocurrency. But what is the use? Where is this money lending? This is only buying and selling going on. Where this money is invested? So let's say if we invest in stock, we can check the daily, quarterly reports where how the stock is performing. We can observe the business. We can see the demand and supply of goods. We can read the business. We can read the stocks. And based on demand and supply, the prices are fixed. But for cryptocurrency, how anyone can decide the exact price? We don't have an exact price, and there's only buying and selling going on without having a proper rationale. Okay, so from tomorrow, if there is any big personality will come and issue their own cryptocurrency. So where is this funding going on? So I have failed to understand this concept of cryptocurrency, and I don't want to join every party in the city because I think cryptocurrency is a bubble. If the currency fluctuates by 15 to 20% on a daily basis, this is not a reliable source of investment or income, whatever we can say. So people trade majorly. Eventually, the things will be in the control of operators, and eventually the small investors will lose their money. Okay, so I think the government regulation, RBI is doing quite well by putting the restriction on cryptocurrency. Somehow, some kind of restrictions, though it is now getting traded, but still RBI is putting lots of restrictions. So they are doing quite well as compared to American government. So I think cryptocurrency is a bubble which will eventually burst, and I really don't understand the concept of cryptocurrency, and I don't personally recommend to invest in crypto. Rather than we should invest in stock where we can track the records, we can see the quarterly results, yearly results, we can see how the business operates, where our money is getting invested, in which companies, in which for which reason, maybe for the expansion of the companies or for inventories or anything. So this is how the investment is done. So I don't think that cryptocurrency has a larger future, bigger future.
Okay. We will be rounding up this interview with one last question. So I want to know about your opinion on the future of Indian economy. Like, where do you see the GDP growth going or the inflation rate going? I mean, where is the Indian economy in the next 5 years, that is 2026?
I think India will see the double-digit growth in the upcoming few years. Most of the analysts have also predicted that. Why I am very much optimistic towards this economical growth is, I will tell you the reason that we have the large force of working population. We have a healthy saving habits. We have the attractive investment schemes, and we have a huge demand. And 60% of our GDP comes from a service sector, which is growing by 9% every year. Okay. And if we bifurcate it by sector wise, if we talk about the primary sector, so primary sector, if we talk about the agriculture sector since 2001 is growing by 10% year on year in terms of production. So India is the second largest producer after China of food products. So we are doing quite well in terms of food production. So we are the major exporters of food across the globe. Second is talking about the secondary sector, though till now the manufacturing sector was not doing quite well. But still, after the mantra of Atmanirbhar Bharat, I think it will give a boost to manufacturing sector. Most of the entrepreneurs will come ahead and start a business. They will try to create a employment, bring down the unemployment rate. They are working hard towards ease of business. Now we have a, GST regime, so it will also help to make the process much more easier. So I think manufacturing sector will also do quite well. Talking about the tertiary and the quaternary sector, I think India is a hub for a major hub for a outsourcing business. We are the major hub for IT business as well. So I think as a global leader, we will come up, we will arise, and India is working hard to become a hub for a startups, because we need entrepreneurs at this moment of time who takes the responsibility. Government is working hard to support them by bringing various schemes, various business schemes. So I think they will come ahead and they will try to come up with the innovative ideas and bring up the productivity in a very efficient manner. So right now our country needs entrepreneurs which can lead the country to bring up the economy. And we all know that 60% of the GDP comes from a service sector. So we are also a hub for a outsourcing of business, like business processing, outsourcing, and etc. So I think we are working ahead to come up, and definitely I have an optimistic view. Maybe in the next 10 to 15 years, India will become the third largest economy after US and China. And we have the major workforce. We are doing quite well. Due to this COVID situation, everything is on hold, but I don't think that it will last long, because we have a power, we have a wonderful government with us to support us. We have a demand as well. So due to the huge population, we have a demand. And once we give a boost to manufacturing sector, the money will flow. The major things which are the major raw materials or the other services which we import from other countries will start producing in our country itself, which will help to flow the economy, which will help to flow the capital in India itself. So I think these are the major reforms which the government is bringing, and India is having a very bright future.
Okay, so that's about it, sir. Thank you so much for joining with us and sharing your valuable opinions. I hope the knowledge that you shared and imparted with us will be helpful for all our viewers. Thank you again.
Welcome.
Priyanka
Thank you so
Mehan, signing off.